The spacing on the back of your seed packet was not written for you. It was written for farmers, people with a lot of land, who visit each crop far less often than you do, and who need airflow and machinery access more than they need yield per square foot. In a home garden, you can plant significantly closer. Stacey Murphy grows tomatoes at 12 inches apart instead of 18, prunes them heavily, and gets more total pounds of fruit from the same space. Here is exactly how the bio-intensive spacing system works and the one group of crops you should never crowd. This Q&A was recorded at a past Grow Your Own Vegetables event, where Stacey Murphy explains why seed packet spacing is written for farmers and how bio-intensive spacing works in a home garden. For more information, free resources, and gentle guidance, you can find us at growyourownvegetables.org. And to grow alongside other gardeners just like you, join our free community at gyov.org.
Somebody asked about spacing. So in the template that I gave you, the spacings are kind of baked into it, where I tell you, put 48 turnips in the stretch of how long is it? It's 4 feet or whatever it is. So there's spacings that are baked into the template. And well, first let's go here. When you're doing your crop spacings outside, it's just good to have a sense of how big things are, especially if you are on the metric system. You can use your hand to understand how many inches things are. And also when you're in the field transplanting, you don't need to have measurements around. You can just use your hand to determine spacing. So here you can see most people have these similar spacings with their hands. So when I put my hand out into like a hang loose sign, that picture on the right, that's about 6 inches. And when I bring my thumb and my pinky finger in together, it's about 4 inches. And then my thumb nail is about a ½ inch. And this is because I cut my nails. These are not press-ons or anything. So typical thumbnails are like ½ inch. To your knuckle is about 1 inch, and then your whole thumb to the second inch is about 2 inches. So this really helps me when I'm out in the field getting a better sense of how much space is available between my plants.
Do this once and you never need a measuring tape in the garden again. Everyone's hands are slightly different, so hold yours against a ruler and note your own numbers.
My plants. So a lot of people will tell you that there's ideal spacing for your transplants when you're growing food, and the idea here is that ideal settings are oftentimes for farmers who have a whole lot of space and they're neglecting their crops a little bit more than maybe a gardener is, and also those ideal spacings ensure that they all the root systems are spreading out for maximum nutrient, bringing up nutrients from the soil. While this might be ideal, there's one other reason why these spacings might be ideal is for pest and disease management. So as a farmer, you might want to do less pest and disease management, and so your spacings are farther apart. And when you start to pack a lot of plants in close together, that's when your pest and disease management becomes more important, because your leaves are brushing up against each other, your plants are brushing up against each other. So
this is the honest trade-off, and Stacey is clear about it. Closer spacing means more food from the same ground, but it also means you have to pay more attention to pests and disease because the leaves are touching
each other. So these ideal settings are, especially for things like cucumbers and squash, those plants are susceptible to powdery mildew, which is a fungal disease that's carried by air, and powdery mildew. So by having the plants spaced out, you have more airflow in between them, and you have a tendency to prevent more of those fungal issues. So that being said, you can grow things closer together than this. And there might be different reasons why you want to grow things closer together. You may need to pack a lot of plants in because you have a small space, and that's one of the reasons I do it. The other reason you might want to pack a lot of plants in together is that you might want a lot of smaller plants. So sometimes when you pack in the plants, you'll get smaller plants growing in that you thin out and make room for larger plants. So I'm just going to sneak over to this slide for a minute, which looks very similar but is different. So this slide is the ideal settings, right, that are recommended by a lot of different farmers and a lot of different extension agents. This is for bio-intensive spacing. And bio-intensive just means we're really packing things in together. And so you'll see that everything really shifts 1 degree closer, basically. So everything that was on the list at 24 inches is now on the list at 18 inches, et cetera, et cetera. And these particular spacings, what this means, this will give the plant still plenty of space for its root systems to grow. The plant may not be as big as the other plant, but you will get a lot of food out of it. And sometimes you want to play with spacings because in the case of, let's say, tomatoes, when I grow my tomatoes 18 inches apart, I don't have to prune them quite as much because they're farther apart. And sometimes I get larger tomatoes, but on the 12 inches apart, I prune the plants back really heavily, and I end up with more tomatoes, and I end up generally with a higher yield in pounds. And
Screenshot this. The tomato result is the whole argument in one line. 12 inches apart with heavy pruning beat 18 inches apart on total weight harvested. Smaller fruit, more of it, more food overall. The same principle applies to kale and collards.
In pounds, and I actually like having more tomatoes that are a little bit smaller than having a few large tomatoes. So these are the trade-offs that happen when you're growing at a smaller spacing. Same thing goes for my kale and my collards. I'm going to scroll up here to that image one more time. So you might notice in this image that my kale is a decent size, but it's not the largest that you've ever seen Tuscan kale. Those leaves are like a medium-sized leaf for Tuscan kale, and the stem is pretty thin, and that's because they are 12 inches apart. All right, so I think that's all I want to say about spacing for now.
The number on the seed packet was written for someone with more land and less time than you. Shift everything 1 step closer. 24 inches becomes 18. 18 becomes 12. Your plants will be a little smaller and your total harvest will be bigger. Stacey's tomatoes at 12 inches apart, pruned hard, out-yielded her tomatoes at 18. Just remember the exception. Cucumbers and squash get their full spacing. They need the airflow or powdery mildew will find them. Everything else, plant closer. You are not the gardener leaving bare soil between every plant anymore. If you want to keep learning from Stacey Murphy, join our free community of growers at goyov.org. And if you want more than one expert, imagine sitting down with 15 of the most respected gardeners, herbalists, and soil scientists on the planet, each sharing the single most powerful lesson they know. That is the Superfood Garden Summit, and it is completely free. Go to growyourownvegetables.org/summit, register in 30 seconds, and start watching immediately.